So a police officer, is it Louisville or Louisville? I never know what the
I
S is.
think I say
I
Louisville.
think it's Louisville. All right. A police officer out of Louisville was caught using a police slash, like, I guess, intelligence gathering tool called Accurant to spy and blackmail women. This police officer would use the tool to basically gain access to their devices and storage and potentially like nude photos or just photos of them, and then send it to them and say, threatened and ask for more pictures. Luckily, this douchebag has been caught and is facing some serious crimes. But we'll talk more about that on today's Not So Critical update.
Yeah, former police officer. I hope there's more punishment than just getting fired from his job, because this is really, really bad. Interestingly, maybe same guy had pleaded guilty previously to throwing slushies at pedestrians out of the window of his patrol vehicle. So this guy's a real class act.
Called Slushy Gate.
Slushy Gate, yeah.
Gotta love these labels. But from what I understood from the article, he's potentially facing 15 years in federal prison.
Good. Yeah, he hacked 25 accounts and made contact with 8 women to try and blackmail them.
And he would share, so he would upload these images that he did get a successful blackmail from, and sometimes not even, and then would I don't know what forums he was using, but he would basically say, add me on Kik and send me more women. Send me more information about other women so I can keep doing this. This is class A filth, and then people, this is obviously not the women's fault at all. So do not misinterpret what I'm about to say, but people say I have nothing to hide. Men and women. And that might be true, that you don't have anything to hide criminally. You are a good, upstanding person, and it's normal to take pictures of yourself. This is very, very normal. But when they say you don't have anything to hide, you're wrong. You do have something to hide, and this is where privacy matters. Because tools are released to law enforcement that allows them to take advantage of you. Because at the end of the day, we're not trusting a system, we're trusting individuals, and not all individuals are to be trusted, even if they're in an authoritative position or they have power, like this dude, like this police officer. So, it's a great argument for privacy is important, and when we have unchecked violations of our individual privacy like this, so this tool, I imagine, used probably a mix of open source intelligence and also maybe I'm not exactly sure, but from what I understand, it's an information gathering tool. Mm-hmm. So not positive how this guy got access to these photos. Maybe it was through hacked iCloud accounts or whatever. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. We're putting so much trust into a system that can be taken advantage of by a low-level police officer. There was no checks here for him to use this software. No, thank you. You do have something to hide, and we should be way more vocal about our privacy.
Well, I just tried to scan. I didn't see if this. I was under the impression that a lot of the photos he got just from their social media to get started, and then would contact them with the blackmail requesting more. photos. We also did the story a couple months ago about the image search, where you could look for. So to the point of privacy, like if I'm posting these photographs of myself, even if I'm doing it anonymously, somebody might not be able to search me by name, but if they could do an image search, they still would find my content. How does
and which would link
privacy
to
play in
your
there?
name?
Yeah. I mean, it's still a privacy issue, but what are you going to do about that?
Who is it to blame? Is it to blame the ignorant, or is it to blame the platforms? Because the only social media company that I can think of that's big that disallows Google and other crawls like spiders is Instagram, which on the flip side makes Instagram the perfect tool for scams and catfishing, because I can steal anyone's identity from Instagram just by if they have a public profile. And there's hundreds of millions of selections there. I was just showing my friend how easy it is to, I basically ran a simulation of, they told me about this guy possibly getting catfished. And I was like, yeah, that looks like a catfish. They showed me the account on their Tinder, a screenshot. And I just ran them through the steps of how in 2 minutes I have a catfish profile because of Instagram. But one thing that Instagram does do is it protects you from that search, the image search tool. I forget what it was called, where it uses facial recognition to basically scan Google and Facebook and a bunch of other places.
So the tie-in here was that he used the Accurate tool to get information about the potential victims, and then he would pass that information to an accomplice who actually hacked their private Snapchat accounts to get the images.
But from what I read, there was no accomplice mentioned in court in the court documents. This is his claim.
There was somebody mentioned with the that came from, according to the article, sentencing memorandum that kind of outlined how that process worked. They mentioned somebody later in the story, but I thought that was attached to the Slushygate story.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough. I don't know. There's so many. I just think there's no such thing as privacy anymore, and we just have to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah, I agree that there's no privacy for your normal American. Anyone walking down the street at any point, zero privacy. Even just using that example, they're walking down the street and that's being tracked. But there are ways we could salvage the situation, but we're never going to, because people are comfortable with the current situation. This affected 25 people, 20 or 25 women. It strongly affected, what was it, 18? 8?
8 were the number of people that he actually contacted.
That's not a dent in how big of a deal this is. And when there is a dent that's large enough, people still forget. Cambridge Analytica, one of the largest scandals in history, doesn't matter. And we are seeing data leaks every week. I was just part of one. I was just part of the U-Haul hack where they said they accessed my information. What am I going to do about it? Nothing. I can't do anything about it. And I think a lot of people feel that way, that they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can vote or change. Like legal or government officials who are running for office don't even use it as their platform. They'll never say, like, let's bring privacy into America. Like, no, they're not going to get any money. They need lobbies. Like, the whole system is fucked.
Is it I know there's a guy who used to be on the show occasionally that would talk about the importance of government regulation in areas like this, and would just go on and on and on about GDPR and how great the EU is. It is, I don't know who was that? I don't we're doing fine now. Whatever, it's fine. Is it an issue of regulation, or is it, like, my sense is just the technology's here. It's here to stay. It's not going to go away. Try and regulate whatever you want. We're still going to have these problems. You can't regulate Like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Is that a saying? Genie back in the bottle, horse back in the barn.
It is. But look at GDPR, or not GDPR. Look at HIPAA. HIPAA successfully put the genie back into the bottle.
I don't think it did. I mean, it forced companies to start paying attention to security, and it put some punishments in place if they don't.
Some serious punishments.
Yeah.
What is it? $50,000 per individual leak. Like
it definitely has teeth for sure.
File.
But that's not, well, I don't know. I guess if you look at the case of the U-Haul thing, or a lot of the breaches that we talk about are companies who failed to protect their data, either by not doing things that needed to be done or making mistakes, or, any number of ways that people actually get hacked. So you could say, and I think that guy slipping his name is slipping my mind right now, but I think he had talked about holding the CEOs personally financially liable for some of these kinds of things. And that's probably not a bad move.
I agree that company owners should be held accountable. I don't think that GDPR is the solution. I think GDPR masks the problem. Government officials in Europe can still use the same tools to a degree.
Yeah.
And police officers, at the end of the day, work for the city, who represents the state, who represents the country. And same thing in Europe, where police officers do have power. Why do I always argue against GDPR when we talk about Peter?
Oh, Peter, that's right.
I argue against it because
it
masks it masks the problem of data collection and intrusion and privacy, where we've talked about this in the past. There is commercial surveillance and then there's government surveillance. And what Peter's basically saying, and he would argue this in some smart British way, is that it's okay for the government to surveil me, but it's not okay for companies to.
You saying that's Peter's position?
100%. Well,
that it's okay for the government to?
Yeah, well, he loves GDPR.
I think that's what
it is. That's what GDPR is.
There.
But that's what GDPR is. The European,
you're drawing
the European Union. I'll tell you. Not at all.
I'm glad he's not here to defend himself. He's watching now, and his head's just exploding.
The European Union said, "What's that saying? Don't do as do as we say, not as we do."
Yeah.
That's what the European Union said to all of these companies. They were like, you have to have all of these checks and balances in place. Oh, but don't worry about us. Like, don't worry. Your data is safe with us. Like, and then Peter would say, well, the European Union is a collection of countries. It's not individual countries. Each country can do their own.
Well, all of them Peter are doing today.
All of them are doing it. All of these countries still surveil their citizens to no end. Some more than others, sure. But like, go to any Western European country, and from the moment you land till the moment you leave, you're being hard surveilled.
Yeah, that's true.
So
and you can't send them a right to remove notice to the government.
Cannot send them a GDPR right to remove. They'll say fuck you in whatever language in whatever country you're in. So what's stopping a government official or police officer in these countries from doing the same exact thing and abusing the system that's been put in place? So is this solvable? I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe you really cannot put the genie back in the bottle when we talk about individual privacy. No buts.